In this video, you'll watch me attempt to build a coding AI tutor/assistant. This will be something that helps you keep track of your progress, generate a roadmap, generate quizzes, and check your understanding, and generally is something you could use while you're learning how to code. Now, I haven't yet built this project, and I want to make this video to show you what my process looks like when I go from idea to a finished application, the steps that I walk through, and exactly how I solve the different challenges and kind of pick the tech stack, languages, etc. This will be more of a story than kind of a tutorial like I've done in the past, so stick around. I think this will be pretty cool. So first things first, before I write any code, I always make some kind of basic plan. Doesn't need to be super complicated. I spent about 10 minutes and I wrote this out. I just want to get some of the features down, understand the languages, just have some idea what I'm going to build so I'm not lost when I go on the computer. So I just wrote this little document. Here's a description, an AI assistant that can help you track your progress, generate quizzes and sample questions for you, and keep track of resources that you've used. I wrote down some of the key features, like I want to have a roadmap and the ability to track your progress. It can generate the roadmap for you, and you can also track whether you've completed it, it's in progress, or it's not completed. We want to have some kind of resource hub to keep track of different links, YouTube videos, maybe PDFs or guides that you're using. Something like question generation. So I really want to be able to generate a question based on some kind of topic and make some kind of quizzes so that you can actually practice based on the stuff that you're learning. So my idea is the AI will be able to look at your roadmap and the different resources that you have and then use that information to generate some context specific quiz questions to make sure you're understanding the concepts that you're going through. In terms of the front end, I just wrote kind of a basic outline of what I wanted this to look like, and I also mocked up the front end with some basic drawings, which I'm going to show you in 1 second. And then I also defined the tech stack that I'm going to use. So for the AI, I'm going to use this new tool called Parlant, which we'll talk about in a second. For the back end, I'm going to use Python. For the front end, I want to use Streamlit because it's a really easy UI library. And then I need some kind of database to store all of this information. So I'll just go with MongoDB and make sure it's a vector-enabled collection. So that's my super basic plan, and a lot of this stuff could change when I start coding, but at least it gives me some kind of direction on the features that I want to build. Now, what I also did is I mocked up my front end. It's really basic and my handwriting is horrible, but I'll show it to you here so you can see what it looks like. So you can see here, we're on the home page. What I've done for the home page is I've just said I want to have like some kind of sidebar here, and on the sidebar, I want to have like a chat, roadmap, hub, and quiz page just to separate everything out. On the home page, I'm going to have some kind of like AI coding tutor window where you can just ask any general question and get a quick response. Then I want to have another page. So this is my roadmap page. On this page, I want to display the roadmap. I want to have like some topics, some subtopics, the ability to check off if a topic is completed. I want to make it so that if you press on one of these topics, there's like some details that show up on the screen so you can add some notes or something. And then obviously I want the ability to add subtopics and add topics and obviously edit these and delete these. I haven't added everything. I just want to have like a basic idea of what the UI should look like. Then I have a little chat window down here. And my idea is that you'll have some kind of toggle for read and write mode. So if you put it in write mode, the AI can actually modify the roadmap and remove something or add something for you. And if you do it in read mode, then you can just query the roadmap and ask it questions about it. So it has that as context. That's my idea. We'll see if that works or not, but that's what I have so far. Next, I have a page for the resource hub. So my idea here is that you have some kind of resources, right? So it just displays resources that have a title, some kind of asset like a link or maybe a PDF or something, and then maybe a short description of what the resource is. And then I'm going to have a chat window with kind of that same functionality where you can either have it in ask mode or add mode. And if you have it in add mode, you can just tell it what resource you want to add and it will automatically do that for you. Or you can ask it a question about resources that you have and it will use retrieval augmented generation to kind of grab that and give you some contextually relevant replies. Last thing I have here is this quiz page. So I want to have a page where you can just type to the AI, say, hey, make a quiz about the first 3 lessons in my roadmap or something like that. And then it will generate a quiz for you and you can test it out and see if you get the questions correct or incorrect. To be honest with you, I have no idea how this is going to go or if this is going to work, but this is what I start with. Some kind of basic plan, some idea of what I want the front end to look like, and now let's start coding. So I'm back on the computer now and it's time to start writing some code. Now at this stage, a lot of people get really confused. They don't know where to start. So I'm just going to explain to you my thought process on what I want to do first. Now for me, I always like to make sure all of my data is set up properly. I have something like a backend API finished, and I know the core operations that are kind of vital to the functionality of my application. In this case, it's kind of the AI components like creating a new roadmap, querying about the roadmap, generating quiz questions. Like there's a lot of AI related features that need to work. Otherwise the app just doesn't make sense. So for me, that's what I'm going to start with, kind of my data, creating the roadmaps, all of that kind of stuff, and then integrating that with AI. And for this video, I'm going to be using Parlant. Now Parlant did reach out to sponsor this specific video. And what they've mentioned is that this is a framework for guided LLM agents. A common issue I run into a lot when I'm working with a lot of the AI frameworks I use is that it's very unpredictable what the LLM is going to do. We can write a really good prompt, we can refine it a bunch of times, but still we can get some really weird responses, and it's difficult to handle every single situation that could come up. Now, Parlant's told me that this framework really helps with a lot of those issues, and that what you're able to do is add guidelines, and these guidelines can kind of guide the agent to give you a more predictable, better response. Now, unlike a lot of other companies that want to sponsor my videos, they just said, hey, build something cool with this, let us know what you think. So I'm going to build with this in this video. Hopefully it will fix some of those problems and you guys can kind of see how it works. Anyways, that's what I'm going to use for the AI, and then I'm going to use MongoDB for my database. So I'm going to get all of this stuff set up. I'm going to start writing some code, and I'll keep you up to date on my progress. All right, so it's been about 20 minutes now. I'll give you a quick update. Now, what I did is I just set up the project in order to work with the database. So kind of having all of that code in order to add entries, remove entries, update entries, etc. So I started by creating this models.py file, which has some Pydantic models to kind of define some more strict typing for what I want to insert in the database. So I have the different fields for my subtopics, my topics, my roadmaps, all of that kind of stuff. And then I wrote this database class that allows me to create a roadmap, update roadmap. You can see if we go down here, get a resource, create a resource, all of that fun stuff. Now, honestly, most of this is actually AI generated. What I did is I wrote a sample schema with some of the different fields that I wanted for my quizzes, resources, roadmaps, and then I just told the AI, here, go ahead and generate the code based on these sample schemas. It was able to create the models for me based on my suggestions, and then this database file. I then also had to generate this kind of driver code in order to test all of this, where we test creating the roadmaps, creating the quizzes, generating user progress, all of that kind of stuff. So that's why I was able to do this so quickly, because I'm just using AI to generate a lot of this code and obviously supervising it along the way and just making sure that it works. So with that in mind, all of my data is pretty much working. Even if I go back here, you can see in MongoDB, I have some entries that I've added. And what I'm going to do now is start working with the AI and seeing if I can set this up as kind of a tooling service that my AI model can use in order to create these entries for me. So I just got Parlant installed, and I quickly want to show you its main feature, which really differs from a lot of the other AI frameworks. So in a bunch of the other AI frameworks you use, you have to write these massive prompts, right? Where you have to handle every single situation. Maybe you're parsing the output, but you're writing these like really long, complicated prompts, and you have to keep tweaking them. You don't really know if they're going to work properly. Whereas with Parlant, what I'm learning here is that you can create something called a guideline. So what I've done is I've made one here where I just said if the user greets you, we want to encourage the user to use this tool for learning and to be positive. So rather than making a bunch of massive prompts, you can actually make a ton of smaller, more kind of granular guidelines that describe exactly what to do based on a particular condition. And then what it will do is evaluate the impact of this guideline and also tell you if it conflicts with any other guidelines that you've added, so you know you don't have any contradictions. So you can see it's added this guideline now, and then I can go test it out. So Parlant provides this like local chat interface just to test out your agent, and you can see that I said, hey, how are you? And it said, hey there, I'm doing great, thank you. I hope you're doing well too. I'm here to help you learn and explore. Feel free to ask me anything you'd like to know. So positive, like exactly what I said. Then I could continue adding all of these different guidelines and really fine tune and kind of guide the agent to give me the exact type of responses I'm looking for. And obviously over time we can add more and more guidelines, which is what I'm going to do now. So I've just been messing around with Parlant a little bit here, and I ended up making a new agent because you can actually separate the functionality into different front-end agents, and adding some guidelines for my kind of general chat window that I'm building. So if I open this up here, you can see this is kind of what I've got so far. I just built a basic front end, just called it AI Chat Assistant. And what I did is I made some guidelines where if I paste in some code, it's going to first ask me what I want to do with that code. So sometimes you'll see the agents will just like go ahead and try to solve something, or they'll generate some new code, or they'll summarize it for you. I don't want mine to do that. I want it to prompt the user and ask, like, do you want a summary? Are you having difficulty with this? I want it to act more like a tutor rather than just go and try to solve a problem. So I added a guideline for that, and you can see that it kind of responded based on what I described there. And then I told it that if I ask it a specific question, obviously answer that question about the code rather than continually asking me, what do you want to do? So I've just made a few basic guidelines, kind of threw this on a Streamlit front end. Seems to be working so far. So I'm going to leave that as is for my basic AI chat assistant. And what I need to do now is I need to start integrating this with different tools and giving the AI the ability to read my database. So I'm going to start building out some of those other pages for things like generating the roadmap. And then once I have the roadmap and the resource hub, then what I can do is start kind of grabbing that information and pulling that into the AI assistant so it can use that for some contextually relevant replies. We're really just getting started here, but I just wanted to get some of the AI logic done, so that's what we'll build now. It's been a bit of time now, and I'm back with another update, this time related to the roadmaps and adding some agent and tool functionality. So what I've done here is I've added a few different pages in the sidebar. So we have home, roadmap, quizzes, resources, and then I've just worked on roadmap to start because that kind of makes sense. We should have the roadmap before we start generating quizzes or adding the resources. And I've actually made it so you can have multiple roadmaps because I figured that probably makes sense. So you can see up here, it lists the different roadmaps you have, and then you can view them and you can kind of check off different topics. You can add different subtopics here if you want to do that. You can add another main topic, and then you can of course save the progress. But the interesting thing that I did here is I made it so that now our AI agent can generate these roadmaps for you. So if I ask it something like generate a JavaScript front-end developer roadmap, what it can do is generate a new one for me and actually figure out what the schema needs to look like and add it to this page. All right, so that finished, and you can see now we have the JavaScript front-end developer roadmap, gives us a description, and then we have a bunch of different topics here which are actually collapsible, version control, build tools, etc. And we can continue to add to this if we want. Now, basically what I did here is I created a new AI agent, which is specifically responsible for generating the roadmap. And I added a guideline to it that just says if the user asks to generate a roadmap, then go ahead and generate a roadmap. However, the way that this is able to actually create this and add it to our database is because I've connected a tool to it. So I also created this new kind of service, which is my database, which acts like a tool. And then I've connected that to this guideline. So we can only trigger that tool if this particular guideline is active. Now that's really interesting because a lot of times you just give the agent access to tools and it can just use them whenever it wants to, and you don't know if it's going to use the tool or not and if it's going to use it in the correct situation. So in this case, if the guideline applies, then it will use the tool, and we can specify exactly what parts of the tool we want it to use, which is what I've done. I can't really show you the command here because I already typed it in, but what I did is I wrote this kind of service file here which connects to the database class I was working on previously. I have this tool right here, which creates a roadmap. Let me close this. You can see we take a title, a description, and then a JSON string defining all of the different topics in the roadmap. I give a bit of an example of what this needs to look like, and then I go ahead and create this and use my database class to add this to the database. Then I just put this tool in a list of tools. I provide that to Parlant, to the AI agent, and now it knows, hey, I can go ahead and use this function when this guideline applies, and then it adds that to the database. So a very cool way to do this, and obviously we have other tools here that I'm going to be using later, like creating a quiz, getting the quizzes, creating resources, etc. So let's move on and code the rest of this because now I've got to work on quizzes and adding the resources. All right, so it has been a few hours. I had some lunch, got back to it, and I just built out the resources page. Now for this page, I kind of made the ability to have different categories like videos, books, documentation, and then you can just click into a resource. You can see a little description, some link, and then when this was added. Now, eventually I would like to have some kind of file upload or something, but I think that's going to be a little bit too complex to build out today because I do want to try to finish this by tonight. but that'll kind of be added later. All right, so we have these, and what I've done is I've added a little chat box here where you can use the AI agent to add a new resource and also to query the resources that you have. For example, if you had like 100 different resources, maybe you don't want to search through all of them, and you can just ask the agent and it will tell you about them. So let me show you an example of adding a new resource. I can say something like, hey, can you add a new resource? And what I've done is I've added a guideline here in Parlant so that it requires that I specify the fields that we need for the resource before it allows me to add it. So you'll see here in a second, it's going to tell me, hey, you need to provide all of this information. And if you look at the left side, it says if user wants to create a new resource, then check if this is the case, if they've provided things like the name, some kind of asset, and the category. So as I said, it's asking me to provide this, the name, the type, and the assets. So I'll go with name, data structures and algorithms, type, let's just go with book, and asset, we'll just say, I'll just put the name. Okay, this is kind of a fake resource, but I'm just putting one here just to kind of show you how it gets added. So you'll see here on the left of my screen, I added another guideline that says when the user provides all of the needed details to create a resource, then go ahead and create a resource. And I've linked a tool to this. The tool that I wrote specifically is here in my service file, where if we scroll down, it kind of specifies how to create the resource. So we need the name, the description, some assets, and the resource type. And then it goes to my database, creates the resource for me, and then returns that result. So we've linked that tool up, and we've also linked a vector search tool if we want to ask questions about a resource, which we'll look at in a second. So you can see here, this resource has been added now. I just had to refresh so you can see it. And we've got data structures and algorithms, the link, data structures and algorithms, and the name here. Obviously not very informative, but you can see in the other ones, we have links to like a video, a description, all of that kind of stuff. Now, another thing that I can do here is I can query. So I can say, can you tell me which resources I have related to Python? And this uses the kind of Atlas search or MongoDB search feature, which requires some embeddings, which I set up, where it will go and perform a vector search, find the relevant information, and then the agent will kind of parse through that and give me a response that makes sense. So you can see here, it actually grabbed all of the resources for me, gave me a little description about them, and then kind of gave me a link in case I wanted to click into or view them. Now, the reason it's giving me all of these is I have it set up to just by default search for 5 resources, which is how many I have here. So if I had more, then it wouldn't give me more. It would just find the most relevant ones. But anyways, you get the idea. It is indeed working, and the vector search worked properly. So that's that on this resources page. I know that looks pretty simple, but it is a little bit complex to set up because I had to make a new agent. Had to set up all the guidelines for the agent in terms of prompting the user to give the correct information, set up the vector search, and now we're going to move on to the quizzes, where my idea is to kind of have them linked to a roadmap. And then again, you can write some kind of prompt. It will then look at the roadmap and generate some quiz questions based on those topics. So with the magic of editing, I have returned, and I'm going to show you this finished quiz feature. Now, basically what I've done is I've set it up so we have available quizzes. You can select different quizzes that have been generated. Here you can see I had one before. If I do something like submit, it will tell me which is wrong and which is correct. In this case, these were both correct. If I change it to something that's incorrect, you will see, just give this 1 second here, that it will tell me which one is wrong, and then it will give me an explanation on why that's wrong. Then I added the ability to generate a quiz. My idea here is that you can pick one of the roadmaps that you have so that we can add additional context to the AI model when we generate a quiz for you, and it can see which topics you've completed, which ones you're working on, so it knows what to quiz you on, and then you can also give it some more details. Now, I've added some guidelines to Parlant here to say, hey, you've got to ask the user to give some more details on what it wants to be quizzed on, like the number of questions, the difficulty. So if I say something like quiz me, then we'll see this will pop up in 1 second, and it's going to ask us to provide some more details. So you can see it did exactly that. Sure, could you let me the topic you'd like to be quizzed about? Also, do you have a preference for the difficulty? So this is because I gave it a guideline to do exactly that. Now I'm going to say, I want this to be on Python advanced concepts and a hard quiz. Okay, so let's ask it that, and then let's see what it gives us. So you can see here it generated a short quiz for us. Now, obviously, it's just giving us the text, but it also created one using the tool. So if I go back to available quizzes, I just need to refresh the page because I don't have it live updating, at least as of now. And there we go, it's refreshed. I have the advanced Python concepts quiz. I also have some other quizzes that I generated when I was testing this. You can see that it gives us a description, and then it has those questions. So what is the purpose of the call method in Python? Which of the following is a valid use case for a Python decorator? And then we can submit this, and let's see what's correct or incorrect. And I guess both of them are right. To make an object callable, to modify the behavior, let's make one of them wrong and see what it gives us. And you see that we get the explanation for why it is incorrect. Okay, so there you go. That is pretty much the finished project. Now, obviously, there's a lot more stuff that I could add to this, but I wanted to show you guys what it looks like to go from idea to finished code in just one day. This took me probably about 5 hours to code out, also because I haven't used Parlant before, so I was reading through the documentation. And obviously, this is quite a bit of code. Like, there's a lot of files that I have written, like all of the different Streamlit pages, right? So like a lot of code that we're going through here. We have the database, we have stuff related to our Pydantic models, we have the service for all of the tool related components. We have some code that was testing the database, but a lot of this was AI generated. If I were to go back even like 2 years ago, this project would have taken me probably a week to build out, or at least multiple days and many hours. But now, because we have the power of AI and we have great AI coding editors like the one I'm using here, Windsurf, it really just makes this significantly faster. And most of the code here I didn't need to write myself. I just need to tweak it, modify it a bit, ask the AI to make some corrections. And because I'm an experienced developer, I know how to prompt it to give me what I want. So I think that's another interesting takeaway from this video. Like, I generated a lot of code here in just a few hours, most of which I didn't have to write myself. I kind of just had to have a bit of a plan on what I wanted, and then I could use the AI really efficiently. So with that said, guys, that is going to wrap up this video. Overall, this was a cool project, kind of fun to work on. Using Parlant was definitely really interesting. It's a new way of kind of working with AI models and agents that I haven't used before. And obviously they have a lot of other features that I didn't show in this video. And if you want to check it out, you can do that for free from the link in the description. You don't need to pay for anything. You can just install it using pip, and it's actually quite simple. You don't even need any login or anything on the site, which I guess I didn't mention. Anyways, if you guys want more projects like this, definitely let me know, and I will see you in the next one.